I finally did it. After years of saving, years of scrolling through listings, I found my dream home. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't on some exotic beachfront. It was something much, much better. It was a house with no homeowners association. Now, here's the kicker. The little twist in my real estate fairy tale. My property was this perfect little island, an oasis of freedom completely surrounded by a sea of beige houses, all under the iron fist of the Crestwood Meadows HOA. I knew this going in. I saw the plat map. My little half-acre was carved out long before the subdivision was even a blueprint. I was grandfathered in, a lone wolf in a pack of, well, let's just say very particular sheep. The first month was bliss. I painted my front door a cheerful fire engine red just because I could. I let the grass grow a little longer than a pudding green. It was glorious. My sanctuary was peaceful until the delegation arrived. One Saturday morning, as I was splitting firewood for the upcoming winter, a trio of neighbors marched up my driveway. I recognized the lead one from the neighborhood Facebook group, a woman we'll call Martha. She had a clipboard, which is never a good sign. She smiled a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes and said, "Good morning. We're from the Crestwood Meadows Welcome Committee." I leaned on my axe, wiped some sweat from my forehead, and said, "Morning, thanks, but I'm not actually in Crestwood Meadows." Martha's smile tightened. "Well, yes, we know that, technically. But since you're surrounded by us, we all feel it's best if the community maintains a cohesive aesthetic." She gestured vaguely toward my beautiful, growing pile of firewood. For example, the community bylaws state that all firewood must be stored out of sight, behind a fence or in a shed. I just looked at her, then at my woodpile, then back at her. "Right," I said slowly. "But again, I'm not in your community. These aren't your bylaws. This is my property." One of the other neighbors, a guy with a perfectly manicured mustache, pointed a thumb over his shoulder at my trusty old pickup truck parked on my own gravel pad next to the house. "And the rules also prohibit parking commercial-style vehicles in driveways." I looked at my Ford F-150. It was a 10-year-old truck, a little rusty, but it was my daily driver. "It's not a commercial vehicle," I said, my patience starting to thin. "It's my truck, and this is my driveway." Martha took a deep breath. The kind people take before they're about to say something they think is profound. "Look, we're just trying to keep property values up for everyone. Your situation brings down the whole neighborhood." I finally stood up straight. "My situation is that I own this land. I pay my taxes. I follow the county and city laws. The aesthetic of your HOA is your problem, not mine. Have a great day." I turned and went back to splitting my wood. The satisfying thwack of the axe hitting the log was the only response I gave them as they stood there, flabbergasted, before retreating in a huff. I thought that would be the end of it. Oh, how wrong I was. The next week was a series of passive-aggressive notes left on my windshield. "Your lawn is unsightly. That truck is an eyesore. Please consider the community." I collected them like weird, angry Pakeman cards. The grand finale, however, came the following Saturday. I was in my backyard, enjoying a cup of coffee in the morning sun. My property line extends about 30 feet into the wooded area behind my house, a fact I was very clear on. Suddenly, I heard shouting. It was Martha, standing just on the edge of her perfectly manicured lawn, pointing her phone at me. "I'm calling the police. You are trespassing on community green space," she shrieked. I almost choked on my coffee. "Martha, this is my yard. The property line is another 20 feet behind me." She wasn't listening. "We have had enough of your disregard for this community. This is protected land, and you are destroying it." She was filming me, providing a dramatic narration for her audience of one. I just sighed, went back inside, and waited. I knew what I had to do. Sure enough, about 15 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up. A very tired-looking officer got out and walked up my driveway. Martha and her husband were right there to meet him, pointing dramatically toward me as I walked out my front door. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. This man is trespassing on HOA land and refuses to leave," Martha exclaimed. The officer looked at me, then at her, then back at me. "Sir, can you tell me what's going on?" I remained calm. This was the moment I had prepared for. "Good morning, officer," I said politely. "This is my property." "That woman is mistaken." Martha sputtered. "Mistaken? We have lived here for 10 years. We know where the community land is." I just smiled and said, "Officer, if you'll just give me one moment." I went back inside and retrieved a folder from my office. I walked back out and handed the officer to documents. "This is a copy of my deed, and this is the official property survey from when I purchased the house a few months ago. As you can see, my property line extends to that large oak tree back there, well beyond where I was standing." The officer took the documents and reviewed them carefully. He walked to the edge of my lawn, looked at the survey, then looked back into the woods, tracing the lines with his eyes. He spent a good 2 or 3 minutes doing this. Martha and her husband stood there, arms crossed, with smug looks on their faces. Finally, the officer walked back, his expression unreadable. He handed the papers back to me. "Thank you, sir. Your documents seem to be perfectly in order." He then turned to Martha. His tone shifted. It was no longer one of patient inquiry. It was firm. "Ma'am," he said, "this is not HOA land. This is this gentleman's private property. He can stand in his backyard, park his truck in his driveway, and stack his wood wherever he likes, as long as he's not violating any city ordinances, which he is not." Martha's jaw dropped. But the green space, the community aesthetic. The officer's face hardened. "Ma'am, you called 911 and reported a trespasser on land that you do not own. You knowingly filed a false police report. That is a misdemeanor offense. Do you understand what I'm saying?" The color drained from Martha's face. Her smug husband suddenly looked very interested in a crack in the pavement. "We were just concerned," she stammered. The officer didn't let up. "We're concerned enough to waste city resources and harass this man on his own property. I am giving you a verbal warning today. If we get another call like this from you, a report will be filed. Do you understand me?" She nodded meekly, unable to speak. The officer gave me a slight nod, got back in his car, and drove away. The silence that followed was sweeter than any victory I have ever known. Martha and her husband didn't even look at me. They turned and did the walk of shame back to their identical beige house. I picked up my coffee, which was now a bit cold, took a sip, and smiled. I haven't heard a peep from the HOA since. Every now and then, I see Martha peering out her window as I happily load up my unsightly truck or add another log to my glorious, rule-breaking woodpile. And every time, I just give a friendly little wave. Freedom, it turns out, is the best amenity of all. Thanks for watching our story today. If you have your own HOA nightmare story, share it in the comments below. We'd love to read them. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Care and Conflict for more content. See you next time.